Imagine a man who creates artificial lightning with his hands, designs complex engines in his mind without any paper or pencil, and promises to supply the entire world with wireless energy. Nikola Tesla. Today, this name is not just the name of a scientist, but almost the name of a religion, a mythology. But let's be honest with ourselves. Do we really know Tesla? Or are we in love with the superhero image that the internet has sold to us? Today, we are not here to glorify Tesla's name, but to clear away the thick curtain of mystery and the fabricated myths surrounding him. Because the real Tesla is far more interesting and far more tragic than the one that has been invented. First of all, let's start with the famous story that Edison stole everything from Tesla. If you watch videos on the internet, you might think that Edison was a villain from a movie, and Tesla was an innocent genius who became his victim. But history is not that simple. Yes, Thomas Edison committed a great injustice against Tesla by refusing to pay him the promised $50,000 reward. However, Tesla was never a poor man living in Edison's shadow. He sold his patents to the Westinghouse Company for an unbelievably large amount for that time, around $1 million. At one point, Tesla was one of the richest and most famous men in the world. The reason he died in poverty was not that Edison robbed him, but that Tesla did not know how to manage money and spent his entire fortune chasing his dreams down to the last penny. He was not an economist, he was a dreamer, and his bankruptcy was the result not of external enemies, but of his own inner passions. And what about those famous numbers, 3, 6, and 9? The phrase, "the key to the universe lies in these numbers," appears today on thousands of profiles and in meditation videos. People believe that by repeating these numbers, they can connect with the universe, and that Tesla discovered this. But the bitter truth is that this sentence does not appear anywhere in Tesla's archives. Tesla really was obsessively attached to these numbers, but this was not a brilliant discovery. It was a symptom of the severe, obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, he suffered from. Before entering a building, he had to walk around it exactly 3 times. When washing his hands, he used 18 towels, because 18 is divisible by 3, 6, and 9. This was not the secret of the universe. It was the inner prison of a brilliant mind. Tesla chose these numbers because his brain could not find peace without symmetry and mathematical order. Yet today, we take the psychological pains of a genius and present them as if they were a magical formula. Let's go a bit further and talk about the greatest science fiction myth, the Tunguska event. In 1908, a mysterious explosion in the remote forests of Siberia flattened thousands of trees like matchsticks. Many people claim that Tesla accidentally sent energy to Siberia while testing his Wardenclyffe Tower. It sounds like an amazing movie script, but physically it is impossible. At that time, Tesla's laboratory was already in financial crisis, and he did not have the technical capacity to produce such enormous energy. Moreover, transmitting energy through the atmosphere across such a distance, and with precise targeting, was beyond the technology of that era, and perhaps even beyond today's capabilities. Tesla himself never denied this myth, because he was also a bit of a showman. He liked to exaggerate the power of his inventions to attract investors' attention. And so, with his silence, he allowed this myth to grow. And of course, there is the issue of free energy. According to the most widespread claim, Tesla was going to provide the entire world with free electricity transmitted through the air. But evil capitalists did not allow it. There's a small grain of truth here, but the rest is a dream far removed from physics. J.P. Morgan stopped funding Tesla's project because Tesla had misled him. When Tesla took money from Morgan, he said he was building a tower that would transmit radio signals. But secretly, he wanted to distribute electricity by using the entire Earth as a transmitter. When Morgan discovered this and realized that the project was economically unrealistic, he cut the funding. Because when energy is transmitted wirelessly, a large portion of it is lost in the air. To light a single bulb, you would have to waste the energy of dozens of power plants into the atmosphere. This would not be free. It would be the most expensive energy system in history. Tesla was not breaking the laws of physics. He was simply treating his dreams as reality. Perhaps Tesla's darkest myth is his death ray weapon. According to the story, he had created a weapon capable of destroying entire armies in an instant. Near the end of his life, Tesla tried to sell this project to several governments, including the USSR. He called it Teleforce. But in reality, it was not a laser or beam weapon. It was the idea of a device that would accelerate particles in a vacuum. The problem is that Tesla was never able to show a working model of this device. He spoke only through theories and sketches. After his death, the FBI confiscated all the documents in his room and studied them for decades. The result? Nothing. No functioning weapon, no secret technology was found. Tesla was simply an aging and lonely genius. He had convinced himself that such miraculous weapons could exist in order to save the world from wars. There is a very famous picture on the internet. Nikola Tesla sitting calmly reading a book while huge electrical lightning bolts and sparks appear around him. Most people who see this image think that Tesla could truly withstand such powerful currents with his body, as if he had some kind of supernatural ability. Some even claim that he was a man who could control electricity, and that this photo proves his superpower. But in reality, it is simply an interesting and cleverly produced photograph. This picture is not a real-time shot. It was created using a photographic technique of that era called double exposure. First, Tesla's photograph was taken while he was calmly sitting in his laboratory. Then, a separate photograph of high-voltage electrical sparks was captured. Finally, the two images were combined and presented as a single photo. As a result, it appears as if Tesla is sitting in the middle of an electrical explosion. But in reality, it is simply an illusion created by photography. This famous image was prepared by Tesla's friend and photographer, Dickinson Alley. He often took such staged photographs in Tesla's laboratory. The goal was to present Tesla's work in a more interesting, dramatic, and impressive way to the public. At that time, such images were considered very important for scientists to promote themselves, and this photo served as a kind of advertisement and presentation. Some people think that Tesla really exposed himself to dangerous currents and was unharmed by them. In fact, this is not true. Although Tesla worked with high voltage, he always followed safety precautions. He used special insulation methods and mostly worked with low amperage currents that were relatively safe for humans. If the human body were directly exposed to such powerful electricity, it would suffer severe injury or death within seconds. Tesla knew this better than anyone and would never deliberately place himself in mortal danger. The main reason this myth became so widespread is that the image looks extremely dramatic. When people see such powerful visuals, they automatically construct a supernatural story around them. Moreover, Tesla was already one of the most intelligent and unusual people of his time. Because of this, people preferred to see him not as an ordinary scientist, but as a kind of magical genius with extraordinary powers. Over time, this photo became one of the main proofs used to support the idea that Tesla was superhuman. Tesla himself said that his achievements had nothing to do with magic, but with science, mathematics, and hard work. He knew that people enjoyed seeing him as a mysterious figure, and sometimes he did not oppose this image because it increased interest in his work. But in his personal writings and interviews, he repeatedly emphasized that his power was not in his body, but in his mind. The real truth is that this famous lightning photo is neither a real explosion nor proof of Tesla's superpowers. It is simply a clever photographic montage created with the technology of its time. But this fact does not diminish Tesla's greatness. On the contrary, he was such a great scientist that people began to create myths, legends, and unbelievable stories around him. His true miracle was not controlling electricity, but presenting ideas that changed the future of humanity. To truly understand Nikola Tesla, we must look not at his myths, but at his humanity. He was a man who hated pearls, could not touch round objects, was obsessively clean, and near the end of his life fell in love with a pigeon and talked to it. Yes, he was so detached from the world that he once thought the interference noises coming from radio signals were messages from Martians. Yet it was precisely this madness that allowed him to invent the alternating current motor that no one else had imagined, lay the foundations of modern radio technology, and develop remote control systems. When we accept him not as a god, but as a human being with mistakes, illnesses, and overwhelming dreams, his true greatness becomes clear. Tesla gave us the future, but we gave him little more than invented fairy tales. Perhaps the greatest respect we can now show his spirit is to free him from the prison of fabricated myths and accept him as he truly was. A lonely, strange, and infinitely brilliant mind.